What's up, guys? Now that we've got our Tikka T3X TAC A1 Chamberlain 6.5 Creedmoor reviewed and thoroughly looked over, now we're going to be adding our scope. So what I've got here today is the Viper PST Gen 2 Vortex rifle scope. This is the nicest scope I've ever had, so I'm trying to be extra careful as I handle it. Alright, so we've got our scope cover, but I bought some flip caps for it. The specs for this are 5x25x50 with a first focal plane. So here we are with our Viper PST Gen 2. Let's put this down. What else do we have in the box? We also have a battery, since it does have an illuminated reticle, cloth to wipe down our scope lens, and sunshade that we can screw on. We'll add that later. And then what we'll be adding to mount it are these Vortex rifle scope rings, the Pro Series. And for this setup with this rail system and this scope is the extra high height for a 30mm tube. Okay, so to get started with mounting your rifle scope, let's separate the top and the bottom of these bases. They should be loosely, yeah, they're loosely attached. So let's get all these unscrewed. Okay, now that we have all the hardware unscrewed, let's go ahead and add these bottom of the scope rings onto the Picatinny rail. So if I remember correctly, the screws need to be on the opposite side of the bolts. Since I'm left-handed, it'll be on the right side for me. So let's put this one on first. And once we get it on, we're just going to finger tighten because we may need to make some adjustments later on. We'll just get it loosely tight with this just because it'll be quicker than with the finger. Okay, and then the same for the back. Now, once you have it in here, I'm not sure if you can see it, but you can probably hear it. There's a little bit of slack in there. So what you want to do is you want to push it as far front as you can and then tighten it down a little more. We're not going to fully torque it down to the right inch-pound yet, but we're going to go ahead and tighten it on that front end so that we can get rid of that slack, because when you fire the gun's going to push back, but because of inertia, the scope is going to go forward. So if you have it pushed all the way forward, it's not going to be able to move anywhere. So let's tighten that. Remember, we're not tightening all the way because we might need to make some adjustments here, but we just want it to be still while we have this set up. And then we'll do the same for the back, push it all the way forward. Tighten it up. Okay, now let's place our scope in the rings. Alright, and then we're going to go ahead and put the top of the rings on, and we're just going to do one screw on each side for both and just barely tighten it up a little bit so that the scope rings do not fall off. That way we don't lose our scope, probably our prime investment, by having it fall off. So just a few turns on each, just so it doesn't go anywhere. forwards and backwards if we need to. We've got our scope on, we've got our rings on. They're not moving forward and backwards, so that's good. So next, what we want to do is make sure the scope is right for us. So what we're going to do is we're going to get behind the rifle. You're going to put your head on the cheek rest with your eyes closed, and then get very comfortable, and then you're going to open your eyes and then adjust. You want there to be a perfect view when looking through the scope. If you're seeing black rings around your image, then that's how you know you need to adjust. So let's take a look at it and see what we've got. So get comfortable and look. So I'm really high right now, so I'm going to adjust this down. Let's go about halfway. Try this again. Much better. Now we're gonna move this back towards me. I'm gonna move. So for me, I have it pulled all the way, and I'm still seeing a little bit of the fuzzy ring on the very outer edge. So we're gonna pull it back towards us just a hair. There's just this front rail. So let's see what that does. Okay, that is much better position wise. So let's go ahead and make sure that it's all the way forward. Just tighten it down so there's no movement. Okay, let's look back at our scope, get comfortable. I think that is our full picture right there. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to tighten this down just a little bit more. Triple check, make sure that is where we want it. Okay, I think I've got it where I want it. So I'm going to take these other screws and lightly put them in. We are still not going to be fully tightening yet because we still need to level the scope. So let's put these down. So there's lots of ways to level the scope. The way I'm going to be doing it today is with these scope level kit. I just keep dropping stuff. Okay, since we have an extra high mount, we're going to need the biggest piece. So you just take this and you put it on your rail. And this only works with this style if you have a flat bottom on your scope. So what you're going to do is you're going to take this and you're going to slide it into your piece until it matches up with your scope, and it's going to make sure it's level. Let's take a look and see. Looks good to me. So while it's in there, I'm going to tighten these up a little more. Still not fully tightening yet. Now that we've got our scope level, we're going to torque down to the torque labeled on the scope ring first, and we're going to do it in sort of like an X pattern, similar to what you would do with your car wheel. So let's find the right bit. This little structure, the instructions on this for mine, for this particularly the Vortex scope rings, it did mention not to use Loctite specifically, so I won't be doing that. It does have the torque poundage on there. Luckily for me, it's actually on each of the scope rings for each set of screws, so it's even a little bit easier for me. So these ones are going to be 18 inch-pounds. Okay, that is down. Take a look at our scope to make sure we're still looking level. It looks like it to me. We still are perfectly level. Let's go ahead and do these screws now. Also 18 inch-pounds. Alright, top and bottom, our scope is in there. So now we're going to get the bottom of the scope rings, which according to this is 30 inch-pounds. Alright. And that's how you mount a scope.